Alright guys, today I have one of my more interesting projects that I've been working on. This is a deck I really haven't seen a lot of other people play. I think it's got a ton of potential this format. You get a lot of pluses off of 1 and 2 cards, and it's been a long time since a deck emerges like this, where when the opponent plays Yu-Gi-Oh, it allows us to play Yu-Gi-Oh even more. With that in mind, I'd like to present to you guys my February 2021 TRAPTRIX Generator deck profile. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is your boy Pay8. I'm feeling great, and I'm coming at you with another spicy deck profile. Today I have TRAPTRIX Generator, like I already said, and honestly, I think this deck actually has a ton of potential. It's super unexplored, there's a lot of room for innovation, and it's just great at putting on pressure and overpowering the opponent with both card advantage and big monsters. So without further ado, I'm just not going to waste any of your time. Let's get straight into the main deck, starting off with the monsters. In terms of the TRAPTRIX, we only play 8 of them. We play 3 each of Myrmilio and Mantis, and then we play double copies of Dionea. So you should already have a decent idea of what these things do. Myrmilio is a Rhoda for your whole trap cards. Mantis searches your TRAPTRIX monsters, usually Dionea. And Dionea is basically just the heart and soul of your graveyard recursion. When it's normal summon, you target a TRAPTRIX monster in grave, special summon it, and then when it's special summoned, you can target a hole in grave and reset it. But then it's banished during the end phase of your next turn if it's still there. That second effect is a hard once per turn, so you can't loop Dionea's effect multiple times, which is probably for the best, but yeah, this is just a really simple, clean-cut lineup. You really don't need much more than this. When I first started playing the deck, I was playing triple Dionea, and you could very easily do that, but I think that's just wrong. It's a little bit clunky at more than 2. Going into the generator monsters, we play 1 copy each of Har, Utgarda, Hela, and Doppelgis. These are the most important ones to see, because Har and Utgarda are your disruptions, and you switch between these two based on the matchups. If you are playing against combo, you usually go for Har. If you're playing against more control matchups like, say, Eldritch or Altergeist, you usually go for Utgarda, because just the quick effect banish on one of those set cards is just super impactful. And then Hela can tribute a generator monster to target one engraved and special summon defense, and Doppelgis summons any number from hand with different names from each other and the tributed monsters, which never comes up because we only play 1-ofs. These are if you were playing a really small generator engine, this is all you have to run, but I personally like 1 copy each of Lopter and Mardell. These two don't really do anything on their own, but what they help the deck do is apply pressure, which is the biggest weakness. The 2 big weaknesses of the deck is that if you aren't playing these, the deck really just doesn't apply much pressure, but also sometimes you can just, you're playing a decent amount of high-level monsters, so sometimes you can just not open a way to bring them out, which it's rare because we only play the 5 high levels, and then Lopter can get. Lopter is just sort of like an alternative normal summon. You can get the Mardell, you can get the Doppelgis if you have Mardell in hand, and it gets you to stage. But I really like this lineup. It's pretty compact, and even opening them isn't that bad. Doppelgis is the only one that you just really don't want to open, because if you open like Utgarda Mardell, instead of summoning like the Har, you can just summon the Doppelgis off stage and then get a plus off Mardell and then still have the banish with Utgarda. And then the last of the monsters, we're just playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Just the most generic hand trap, says negate anything. Let's get right into the spells. We don't play a ton of them, but the ones we do play are insane. 3 copies of Boss Stage with the 1 copy of Terraforming. This card is phenomenal. This is the heart and soul of the generator half of the deck. So basically, if you don't know what this card does, once per turn for cards added from the main deck to your opponent's hand, you can special summon a generator monster from your deck in defense, and then during your opponent's turn, if you special summon a generator monster, which guess what, you're always doing it during their turn, you summon as many generator tokens as possible to your field in attack position, and they are 15/15, so they are not small, but then destroy them during the end phase, even if the card leaves the field. So you want to see this card in every opening hand. This is one of the cards that lets you go like +3, +4 for no reason. You just want to see this as much as possible. This card is amazing. And then the only other spell we're playing is 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance. In a more pure TRAPTRIX build, or like a TRAPTRIX artifact build, I would not play this, because you need some of those cards in your extra deck for the utility. But what I found with this build is that you really only need like 1, maybe 2 copies of Sarah, and then the rest of your extra deck can just be random utility monsters, because you're toolboxing a lot more of the main deck here. Like the stage into like Har or Utgarda gets you your negations and get you like your spot removal. So realistically, the extra deck just needs to be like Sarah and a bunch of maybe like rank 4s, utility link 2s, the extra deck really doesn't actually matter that much in this build. Obviously, banishing multiple Sarahs can be a little bit detrimental, but in most cases, you only ever need the one. Now, that second extravagance is terrifying to fire, and I usually hold it unless I absolutely have to fire it. But, I mean, that first extravagance is almost completely free, and it lets you get 2 free cards for no reason. So just super good card. If you don't want to play this, you can play hand traps, but I think this card actually has a pretty decent spot in this deck. So that is it for the spells. Moving on to the traps, we are playing a TRAPTRIX deck after all, so we do play a high amount of them. 3 copies of TRAPTRIX, pretty standard, searches the entire deck, just super nice in this deck. Followed up with 3 copies of Generator Boss Fight. This is basically just a metaverse that lets our opponent draw cards, so it's a little bit of a downside there. But when you pair this up with like Sarah or your other TRAPTRIX monsters, or like your second activation of Stage, yeah, your opponent's drawing a card, but you're going to out-resource them anyways, because Sarah, when you activate a trap card, is a +3, and then Stage can usually translate to anything from a +1 to a +3 as well. So it's just, like, the draw 1 matters a little bit, but then if you already have Har with the first Stage activation, then you can just chain block and make it to where your opponent can't ash all of your things, which is just super powerful. Obviously, your opponent drawing a card is a little bit of a downside, and I'm not going to try to downplay that because it is a downside, but I think in this build, it actually doesn't matter that much because you will outpace them at some point anyway. Going into the trap holes, we play 2 copies of Time Space. I think this is one of the best holes this format, because every deck is special summoning from hand or extra, and this just is one of the best ways to deal with it by just spinning it back, because that's resources that they're just losing. They don't get it back. It doesn't destroy first and banish like Bottomless does, and it is just really good, I think, in this current format. Obviously, the holes, with certain exceptions, are very much just whatever you want to play. This one is not, though. At least 1 copies of Gravedigger's Trap Hole. I only like 1, and I only have 1, but I've seen a lot of builds play 2, and I mean, you can 100% do that. But I actually like a fairly slim Trap Hole lineup, because the holes don't really do anything going second, and you have to keep that in mind. I do play 1 more Trap Hole, though, and that being Bottomless. I hated Bottomless for the longest time, but in this format specifically, like, there's not a lot of destruction protection, and this card outs a lot. Like, if your opponent makes like a VFD, you can Bottomless that. If your opponent makes like a Ben 10, you can Bottomless that. Like, Bottomless on some of the dry tones is really good. Bottomless on Eldritch off of Sanguine is really good, because then they have to have another Eldritch in hand or another fast way to Sanguine, or else you're going to start out-resourcing them because their conquistadors are going to be dead. So yeah, that's just it for the trap holes. For the more generic traps, we play the 1 Metaverse, just because it says activate Stage from deck, activate this in draw phase, and it becomes 5 copies of Stage without giving your opponent cards. And then we play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Obviously, you don't have to play this. It's not amazing, this format, but I like it because it's the 4th, 5th, 6th hand trap. It's not horrible, and it still says just trigger Sarah, which if you weren't playing a like trap-based control deck, you 100% don't have to play this. If you have the money for it, I would probably cut this for Ice Dragon's Prison, but Imperm has been pretty good for me so far. And then the last trap cards, we play 3 copies of Phantom Knights of Shade Brigandine. This is just for the TRAPTRIX engine, gets you a 1.5 card Sarah plus any rank 4 and a whole set from deck. Super good card, a little bit bricky when you don't open a TRAPTRIX monster, but you're playing 8 so plus extravagance, so you should more often than not be opening a TRAPTRIX monster with this. But yeah, that is it for the main deck. Going into the extra, we have 3 copies of TRAPTRIX Sarah, the best card in the extra deck, bar none. This card is insane. So if you don't know what this card does, I mean, you should already know, but basically this thing is Spellbook of Judgment for the deck. It is super good, and it combos with itself. So basically, when it summons one from deck, that one that's summoned from deck will activate its effect, and then whether it's popping your opponent's spell or traps or resetting your holes, then you get to set another hole from deck. Just super good card. Then the rest of the extra deck is just kind of utility. We play 2 copies of Nightmare Phoenix and then 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn. This is just because of extravagance. You want some form of just generic Nightmare removal. I might swap the ratios on these because it's really easy to make Unicorn in this deck, and the Phoenix draw is nice, but I mean, it doesn't really do a lot against like Eldritch, but I think it's still good because the Eldritch isn't the only trap deck running around right now. IP, because we can drop Nightmare Unicorn on the opponent's turn, and this is a little bit better than some of the generic rank 4s because of the generator engine. And this just clears our main monster zone so we can get more tokens and then have the Halo for the generators. And then Boral Sword, we don't really make this that often, but this is just another way to punch in the opponent. You could also play like maybe, I think Raster Liger is not bad because it lets you gain attack equal to a Link monster in grave and then tribute monsters to destroy an equal number of cards on the field. So that's not a bad substitute for this card. But Boral Sword is something that is nice to have in your back pocket. And then one of the best cards in this deck is one copy of Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. I would 100% be playing 2 of this if I had access to the second one. This card is just insane. We can make it so fast because of the way the generators and the TRAPTRIX cards interact. We don't summon a lot on our first turn, but we summon a ton of monsters on our opponent's turn. And then being able to make an IP and drop this on their next turn is just super nice, super high impact. This card is insane. That is it for Link monsters. Going into Xyz monsters, again, these are all just utility. We play double copies of TRAPTRIX Rafflesia. You have to play 2 of this now because of Extravagance. This is probably the second most important card in the extra deck because you want to be able to make this off of Brigandine combos, because this just lets you activate like the Gravediggers from deck. It protects you from Nibiru, which isn't amazing right now, but starting to get a little bit of a comeback because Combo is making a comeback. But yeah, 2 double Rafflesia, 1 Alamaris, just utility, 1 Redoer. Again, more utility. We don't really need this too much, but it's nice to have. 1 Dweller. I would probably be playing 2 because this last card is just kind of like a flex spot. Whatever you want to play here, you can play. Whether you want to be like a second IP, second Underworld Goddess, access code if you have it, it's pretty good. But yeah, this is just the 15th card is a complete flex spot. You can play whatever you want. So that is it for the deck profile half of the video. Let's get into the test hands. Alright guys, welcome to the test hand half of the video. I have my deck all shuffled up and I'm going to draw 2 to 3 different test hands and show you how to play some of the hands out with this deck. Because it does kind of make sense on its own for the most part, but I just want to show you some of the things that I would do with these hands. So our first hand is Pot of Extravagance, Dovelgus, Feels Bad, oh another Extravagance, Mantis, and Ash Blossom. So this isn't that great of a hand. We'll just fire off the Extravagance here, shuffle our extra deck a little bit, and then banish 6 cards. Just to get us access to whatever we may need. So we get to draw 2. What do we banish? We banished 2 Sarahs, but that's not that bad. Again, like we really should only need 1. Oh, sweet, we ripped Dionea and Brigandine. That actually gives us a full game plan here. So if you don't know the combo, we just normal summon the Mantis. We can search the second Dionea. There's really no need to search Vermilio because usually we're going to get access to it from the deck with Sarah. So we make the normal the Mantis, link 1 for the copy of Sarah, set Brigandine, activate Brigandine, this procs Sarah to special 1 from deck. So here you summon the copy of your Myrmilio. And then Myrmilio, even if your opponent does not control a Spiral Trap, it has to activate, which triggers Sarah, which is important to keep in mind. So you don't have to waste like a Mantis or something for no reason. So you activate that, you get a copy of Time Space from your deck. And then you get to overlay for the second copy of Rafflesia. And then that's just about it. That was not a great hand. Obviously, we opened Dovelgus. Our hand is pretty saturated with monsters, but we still have Rafflesia. We still have the Time Space set. We have Ash. We have Dionea for follow-up. Like, that was not a great hand, but you saw how Extravagance just made it completely playable again. So that's it for hand 1. Let's go into hand 2. Give the deck just a quick shuffle. I suck at shuffling. So yeah, I think the deck is actually pretty good. Like even in the hands that aren't great, like you have cards like that can just completely reshake them up. And then make your bad hands into things that just carry a ton of weight to them. So starting off, we have Stage, Dovelgus again, Bottomless, Dionea, and Extravagance. This is a lot better of a hand. Obviously, this Extravagance can dictate a lot of it. We don't want to banish all 3 Sarahs, but I mean, the chances of that happening are pretty minute. So just give the extra deck a good shuffle, banish the 6, see what we hit. Banish 1 copy of Sarah and Rafflesia, and then the Underworld Goddess, but again, that really shouldn't matter that much. We just banished a bunch of 1-ofs we really don't want. Drawing Mardell Har, that's not great. So you can kind of see that's one of the downsides of playing a heavier generator engine, is that sometimes, especially if you draw Dovelgus, obviously these are both hands with Dovelgus in hand, so like that's just, he's the 1 hard garnet, so these are 2 just not great hands, but we're still going to have access to Stage. We have Dionea, we're going to link that into the copy of Sarah. I mean, we still got Bottomless, so like it could be a lot worse. We could just summon, oh, I just bumped the camera. So, I mean, this was not a fantastic hand either. Again, like, like, it's not amazing, but we're still gonna be able to try and out-resource our opponent. We're gonna wanna get into the Lopter here first. Normally, you would wanna go for your interaction instead of Lopter first, because Lopter does lose to Ash Blossom, but in hands like this, you just kind of have to reach and get a little bit greedy. But yeah, that is it for hand number 2. Let's go into the third and final hand. Yeah, and that's, like I said, one of the biggest weaknesses of the deck is that sometimes you just do open like that. It is pretty rare, but again, like any deck that plays a lot of big monsters just sometimes has that problem. So, third and final test hand, we have Extravagance, Boss Stage, Imperm, and Lopter. This is good. This is really good. Of course, we're going to lead off with the Pot of Extravagance, give the extra deck the third and final good shuffle, excavate the top 6, and yeah, like, we banished both Rafflesias, which I guess may matter a little bit, but no Sarah's gone. We still have a second Phoenix in extra deck. And what do we draw? We draw Boss Fight and Trap Trick. Wow. Yeah, this is a hand. So because we have Lopter, again, this is why we play the Lopter. It's just another alternative normal summon, so we can normal that, tribute it immediately for the copy of Mardell. And then Mardell will search us a copy of Dionea so that we have immediate access to our TRAPTRIX engine next turn. Then all we have to do is just set the stage, set 4 cards, and pass to our opponent. And again, this doesn't look like much, but we have double Imperm, we have Boss Fight, so we're getting 2 bosses during our opponent's turn, and then we have Dionea to follow up. I mean, odds are one of these trap cards won't be used, then we end up drawing for turn. We draw another Trap Trick, we normal the Dionea, we link for Sarah. If we have to blanket Impermanence, we'll do it. Like, it doesn't matter that much. And then we're just going to start plussing. So that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching this deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more. And I will see y'all later. This is Pay 8, still feeling great, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.